Hello, and welcome to The Wave from Ocean Reef, a podcast about the flow of life today and how you and I might ride with or swim against it. I'm Dan Meyer, Chaplain-in-Residence at the beautiful Ocean Reef community in Key Largo, Florida, and here's The Wave for today. Do you ever become weary in doing good? Maybe you've invested yourself in something or somebody for a long time, but seen little positive results. You've grown exhausted, and you've begun to think to yourself, why shouldn't I just give up? Perhaps it's a key relationship you've plowed yourself into, the one you have or are trying to have with your spouse or your child, with a parent, a friend, maybe even a colleague. You give and give, you talk and talk, but the love or growth or change of character you hope for never seems to come. Or maybe you've met that sort of weariness at work or in some volunteer activity. It seems like no amount of diligence on your part quite wins you the recognition or the reward that you feel should be due. And you wonder, why am I bothering to put in all these hours when nothing, or at least so very little, seems to come from my efforts? As if natural frustration were not enough to make us question the worth of continuing sometimes, at least of continuing to give it our very best, all around us are messages that life should not be this way. Television presents us with a world where other people's problems are usually solved in an hour and are only occasionally even to be continued. Society sells us packages of instant everything, from popcorn to press-on nails to same-day deliveries. And then we're reminded that if something isn't working, we're not to worry too much because it's disposable anyway, and a new and improved replacement is almost certainly available over the counter or at worst, when no one is looking. In light of this influence, is it any wonder then that when the going gets tough, even the tough think of just going? Frustration turns to irritation, irritation to anger, anger to depression, depression to apathy, and apathy to an attitude that says, why go on? Why not spend my energies elsewhere? Why not give up? The Rabbi Jesus once said, there will come times when we ought to give up, when we ought to shake the dust from our feet and move on to more fruitful ground. Jesus said, don't keep throwing pearls before swine, people who don't appreciate the treasure they're being given. I doubt, however, that Jesus intended for these exceptional situations to become so much the rule. Think how quickly today the champions of truth and justice our society needs throw in the towel when results are slow. Consider how frequently partners in marriage or in business sever the relationship and move on. Ponder how often employees whose reforming efforts are desperately needed in their companies or organizations grow discouraged and they leave, or employers dispose of staff who might have been coached into breakthrough performance if they just stuck with them. Here's the reality. The richest rewards of life never spring up overnight. The best characters or connections, the greatest competencies and contributions are rarely enjoyed by those who require an easy or predictable way of life to stay invested in them. The best harvest is reaped by those who exhibit that spiritual fruit called faithfulness. At its core, faithfulness is a lifestyle of obedience over expedience. We grow a spirit of faithfulness within us as we choose to make the principles by which we live even more important than the products we turn out. We are living with faithfulness when we become much more concerned with doing what is right than worrying over the immediate results. The atheist philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, that the essential thing in heaven and earth is that there should be a long obedience in the same direction. There thereby results, he says, and has always resulted, in something which makes life worth living. St. Paul put it this way in Galatians 6 and verse 9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. That's today's Wave from Ocean Reef. If you know of others who might appreciate this sort of content, I hope you'll pass it along or encourage them to find me on Spotify, Apple, or other podcast outlets. Until next time, I'm Dan Meyer, hoping that the flow of life is good for you.